morning. I'm Miss Sanford and I'm a third grade teacher at Bricky McLeod Elementary School. And I'm excited that you've joined me for one of our Knox County Schools at Home Summer Edition lessons. So this is a third grade math lesson and we will be reviewing the relationship between multiplication and division today. So let's take a look at our learning goal. Our learning goal for today is that we are learning to use the relationship between multiplication and division to solve problems. Now, hopefully this will be a review for us. So we might have wanted to say I'm reviewing to use the relationship between multiplication and division to solve problems. And for us to be successful at doing this, we first have to understand that multiplication and division are inverse operations. We want to be able to find the unknown number in a multiplication or division equation, and I'm going to be teaching you or reviewing with you a tool that we can use to help us do that. And then last, we can use both models and related equations to solve word problems. So the first thing I want to take a look at is the vocabulary. And our first word is multiplication. So in order for us to understand the relationship between multiplication and division, we have to know what multiplication is. So multiplication is just the operation used to find the total number of items in an equal sized group. So all that's really saying is multiplication is joining equal groups together. So that word equal is key with multiplication and division. So when we take a look at our picture at the bottom, we have three equal groups of objects. And when we have equal objects, we can multiply them to find the total. Now, groups are called equal groups when they all have the same number of objects. So when you look at that picture of shells, you see that there are three groups and there are two shells in each of those groups. So we could write a multiplication equation to say 3 times 2. You can also think of 3 times 2 as three groups of 2, or three groups of 2 shells. And 3 times 2 equals 6. Now, another cool thing with multiplication is we can flip those two factors, the 3 and the 2 numbers that are being multiplied together. We can flip them and say 2 times 3, and our product remains the same. We would still have 6 shells in all. Now, the next word that I want to take a look at is division. And division is an operation used to separate a number of items into equal size groups. So the difference that you see with multiplication and division is in multiplication, we're joining, and in division, we're actually separating into equal size groups. But that word equal is still in both of those definitions. So guys, when we divide, we want to separate a number of items into equal size groups. So if you take a look at that picture, you'll see 6 socks in all. And one way that we can divide those socks up is to make 3 groups and put them into 2 socks in each group. Now, that's not the only way that we could separate those socks. We could still keep our total of 6 socks, and instead of having 3 groups, we could have 2 groups. Now, that's going to change a little bit because now we would have 3 socks in each of those groups. So we can look at that either way, just like multiplication. So there are 6 socks here in this picture, and there are 3 groups, and there are 2 socks in each group. So now that we've kind of reviewed what the words multiplication and division mean, let's take a look at how our multiplication and division are related. So when you take a look, we have 2 pictures here. The first picture is a picture of multiplication. We have an array. And an array or a picture model are ways that we can represent multiplication and division. Now with our picture, you see some rows, and we also have columns. Now what I notice is that we have 3 rows, and we can also say that we have 3 groups. The rows are representing those groups. And in each of my rows of tennis balls, we actually have 4 tennis balls in each of those rows, which would give us a total or a product of 12. So 3 times 4 equals 12. So all we did in that picture was that we were just joining those equal groups to find our total or our product. Now, when we take a look at this picture over here, our division, we see that we have the same picture. We have 3 groups still, and in each of those groups are the 4 tennis balls. Now, the big thing that I noticed that's a little bit different is in division, we start with our total. we start with how many tennis balls we have in all, and we are breaking them up into equal groups. So we have 12 tennis balls in all, and we're going to divide them into 3 groups, which would then tell us how many tennis balls do we have in each group. We have 4 tennis balls in each group. So the answer to a division problem is called our quotient. Now, you probably are thinking, that sounds a lot like fact families. Now, we often use fact families when we're talking about addition and subtraction, but with multiplication and division, we also have fact families. So when I take a look there, the big thing that I notice is in a fact family, they have the same 3 numbers. We see that 9, 2, and 8. So at the top of our triangle, we have 18. And in our 2 corners, we have 9 and 2. So we know that 2 times 9 equals 18. We can also say that 9 times 2 equals 18. Remember, we can flip those factors and that product remains the same. Now, we said the difference with multiplication and division is that in division, we're going to start with that total. We're going to start with our whole. So you'll notice that I started with 18 because that's the total. That's how many we have in all. Now we can say 18 divided by 2, and that quotient is 9. Now we can flip that and say 18 divided by 9 is equal to 2. So the thing that I've noticed here is just that those 3 numbers are staying the same. And that's the relationship between those multiplication and division equations. So we can use these multiplication and division equations to describe a problem. So for instance, one arranges pennies in an array. So this array looks very similar to that array we just saw. So we have our rows of pennies. And you'll notice we have 4 rows. And then we have our columns, or how many pennies are in each of those rows. So multiplication can tell how many pennies there are in all. So 4 rows or 4 groups of 8 is equal to 32 pennies. Now remember, we can flip those 2 factors and say 8 times 4 is equal to 32 pennies. So our product didn't change and our factors didn't change, they just changed places. Now we can also use division to explain this problem about 1. But remember, in division, we always start with our total. So division can tell how many pennies are in each of our rows or how many rows there are. So for instance, if I know there's 32 pennies and we have 4 groups of pennies, well, 32 divided by 4 would give us 8 pennies in each row. Now division told us it can tell us how many are in each row or each group, or it can tell us how many groups we have. So we could also flip and say that 32 pennies divided by 8 pennies in each group is equal to 4 rows of pennies or 4 groups of pennies. However you want to look at those rows, we can call those rows groups or rows. So notice once again that all of these equations that we used have the same 3 numbers, 4, 8, and 32. So that's going to be key in this next activity. So you guys are going to be working on just understanding that relationship, or how multiplication and division are connected. Remember, they are just inverse operations. They're just reverse. In multiplication, you're using to figure out how many of something you have in all. So you're joining equal groups together. And in a division, you're using division to separate those equal groups. You're going to be trying to figure out how many groups you have, or how many rows you have, or maybe how many are in those groups or rows. So it's key that you look at what the question is asking you to figure out or to find. So in those first problems, you will use the picture of groups to help you solve. Going on down to number 4, you're going to write a fact family for that array of arrows. And then for the bottom part, you're just going to use those fact families, or that relationship of multiplication and division, to help you find that unknown number. Now, this might look familiar to you. I hope it does. But you may have wondered, What else can I use to help me solve multiplication facts? So another tool that we're going to talk about other than just drawing pictures or using an array is a multiplication chart or a multiplication table. So you're going to look and you're going to see numbers going down this column, and then you have numbers along the top in that row. And those numbers are just representing your factors or the numbers that you are joining together. And then all of these numbers in the center, the white numbers, those are your products. Okay, that's your total. So how can we use a multiplication chart to help us find the unknown in a multiplication sentence? So for instance, if we were trying to figure out 4 times 2, and I'm gonna get a pen. So we can find 4 along that column, and then we can also find 2. So 4 times 2, and we're just going to go until those two numbers meet. So our product would be 8. 4 times 2 equals 8. Now, let's try another one. So if I wanted to know 5, fives are pretty easy. Most of us can skip count from, by 5. So let's actually try 8 times 7. Now the big thing here is to make sure you are staying in that correct row. You don't want to go diagonal, okay, or you'll get the wrong product, and then you're going to come straight down. Now you can use your fingers, but I just wanted you guys to see. So we know that 8 times 7 is 56. Now we've used this to help us with multiplication, but we can also use a multiplication chart to help us with division problems, because remember, multiplication and division are related. They're very similar. So how can we use this to help us find the quotient or the answer, the unknown in a division problem? Let's use the color green for this. So let's say our division equation is 36 divided by 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that second number in my equation. So 36 divided by 4. So I'm first going to find 4 in that column, and I'm going to go over in this row until I find 36. And you'll notice I find 36. And to find the answer, or that quotient of 36 divided by 4, I'm just going to go up. So 36 divided by 4 would equal 9. We're going to try one more. I'm going to use a different color. We'll use magenta. Alrighty, so let's say 48 divided by 6. So first I'm going to go to that second number in my equation of 48 divided by 6, which is 6, and I'm going to find it along this column. So I find 6. I'm going to stay in this row. Remember, I want to stay until I find what number? 48. The total. Remember, all these are our totals in the center. So 48 divided by 8 is 8. So that is how we would use that to find our unknown number. So multiplication charts can be really fun, and they can help you to find your answer, your unknown, very quickly in a multiplication or division equation. So you're going to be using these multiplication charts or tables on your activity 2. So you'll notice you have several equations to solve, and you're going to use those to help you find that unknown. Okay. And then last, in order for us to be successful, is we have to be able to use those models and equations, related equations, to help us solve multiplication and division word problems. So we're going to kind of take everything we've just talked about and we're going to apply it to this problem. So let's take a look at our problem. It says that Nina buys 20 stickers and she puts the same number of stickers on each of 5 pages in her scrapbook. How many stickers does she put on each page? So before I even try and start solving this problem, I want to ask myself a few questions. Alrighty? So first, what is this question even asking me to do? So it's asking me how many stickers, I'm going to get my pen back out. How many stickers does she put on what? Each page. Okay, okay? And that each is really important. So how many stickers does she put on each page? So when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking I'm not looking for a total. So what was important? What do I already know? Well, I know that Nina buys 20 stickers, which is how many stickers I have in all. So I know my total. I know I have 20 stickers in all. What else is important? It says that she puts the same number. That makes me think of the word equal. She puts the same number of stickers onto 5 pages. And when I see that 5 pages and I look at that picture on our screen, that 5 pages makes me think of 5 groups. So I know how many stickers we have in all. I know that we want to separate them into 5 pages or into 5 groups, and I'm looking to figure out how many stickers are going to be on each of those pages. So when I think about this, I think that I'm going to use a division sentence or a division equation to help me solve this problem. Since I know my total, and I know that in a division equation, I start with my total. So one way that I could solve this is by writing my division equation, 20 divided by 5. Remember, this 20 is representing those 20 stickers, and this 5 is representing the 5 pages. Okay, and then we're looking to figure out how many stickers are going to be on each of those pages. So 20 divided by 5 equals 4. Now, how could I solve this? Maybe you know 20 divided by 4, okay? And you just knew that it was 4. You know that fact. Well, if I didn't know that fact, one tool I could use would be that multiplication chart or table that we just talked about on the previous slides, or I could use a picture model like you see here. I could divide up these stickers equally, put the same number on each page until I got to 20, okay? So we know that Nina puts 4 stickers on each page. Now that's not the only equation that we could use to solve this problem. Now remember, we've talked a lot today about the relationship and how multiplication and division equations are related. So we could use a related equation to help us solve this. So another way I could solve this is by writing a multiplication sentence. Now remember, I don't know one of my factors. I knew that there were 5 groups of something. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so 5 groups of how many stickers on each of those pages equals 20. Okay, now a lot of us can say 5, 10, 15, 20, so I know that that missing number would be 4. Once again, you could also use your multiplication chart, or you could use that picture, okay? A lot of us would rather use a multiplication equation to solve. That's easier for us, and that's fine. So either one of these equations can help you to solve this problem. So thinking about this problem, you are going to solve 6 problems that are similar, okay? And I want you to remember, when you're solving these problems, I want you to ask yourself, what is it asking me to do? What am I looking to figure out? And then what's important in that equation? What's going to help me to solve it, okay? And I want you to solve each problem by showing your work. So maybe you want to draw a picture or write your equation out. I don't just want to see an answer. So try and show me how you solved it with those related equations, okay? So good luck on these 3 activities. I hope you have fun reviewing the relationship between multiplication and division. But before I leave you, I want us to take a look back at what we talked and reviewed today. So today we reviewed the relationship between multiplication and division to help us solve problems, okay? And we knew that we're successful when first we understand that multiplication and division are inverse operations, that they are related equations, okay? We also wanted to be able to find our unknown number in a multiplication or division equation. And one tool I gave you, or we reviewed today, was using that multiplication table. And then last, I want you to be able to use both models and those related multiplication and division equations to help you solve those word problems. So before we leave, I have 2 fun challenges for you. It's for you to get outside and kind of get moving to help you review your multiplication facts. So one way is multiplication hopscotch. All you're going to need is some sidewalk chalk and then a set of multiples to practice. So You'll see that picture on our screen. That's kind of what hopscotch looks like. I know your parents or your grandparents can help you draw those boxes, but all you're going to do is you are going to think about facts that maybe you're not super comfortable with, or you're not the most fluent with. A lot of times those are like our 7s or our 8s or our 9s. So you're going to choose, and I'm going to say we're going to work on our 6s, okay? So once either I or parents or someone's helped you draw those boxes, I want you to fill in with those multiples. So all that means is you're going to skip count by 6s. So I would do 6, 12, 18, 24, okay? Until I get to 6 times 10, which would be 60. And all you're going to do is you're going to hopscotch through those just to help you become more fluent with that skip counting of 6s. And it'll help you to become more fluent as you try and solve those multiplication facts. Another challenge I'm going to leave you with, or something fun to do outside, is outside arrays. So we have chickens around our house, so we have lots of eggs. So I want you to build arrays with things outside. So for us, I have some chicken eggs. You can find rocks or flowers or grass. You can draw them with chalk, whatever. Build an array and then write those related multiplication and division facts to help you practice your fluency. So I hope you guys have fun. Good luck and enjoy the beautiful summer weather.